I used to deliver packages in the mail for a company in the south. A lot of the daily routes were in the hills and woods. Last year I had a route that was super deep country. I was used to back roads and the country now at this job by that point. There were some houses I stopped at with a driveway super steep or some other shit, but for the most part everyone was always super friendly out there, country folk. Well, I had a delivery that was down this long gravel street. There were only a few houses on my journey to the house that this delivery was at. Still, at this point, I'm totally fine. There's a ton of these types of roads out here. Well, I arrive at my destination. No mailbox, no driveway, no gravel. You could make out a little bit of a path that has been made from cars driving to the house. But I'm serious when I say a little bit. The driveway is maybe 250 yards long with the house at the end of it. I'm only sketched out because I'm in the woods and land is super unpredictable back here, meaning you never know when there's just a drop-off. I'm in a huge box truck. So if one tire was to slip off the side, the whole thing is going down. I'm driving literally probably less than a mile an hour, taking my time and being extremely cautious. As I'm making this drive back to the house, I start kind of checking out my surroundings. I pass a really old, broken down truck that the ground has started to grow around. Again, super common back here, no biggie. As I get further and further down the driveway, I notice that I've probably passed about 4 satellite dishes, like cable dishes. I start approaching the house. This house from the outside looks like it is a Walter White Season 5 style cabin. It's a shack. I park and kind of just check out my surroundings. After about a minute, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna deliver it and leave. I walk up to the front door of this cabin thing, and the front door had a glass window in it. Not modern, think old, a big glass window. Like a cabin that was built in the late 50s with no repair. As I sit the small package down in front of the door, I glance inside the house. The main room, which would be like a living room I'm guessing, is completely empty. The only thing that is in this room is 2 foldable metal chairs, both unfolded. Both facing a corner of the room, but nothing is in the corner. In the meantime, I'm trying to do my job with my right hand, where I keep making very quick glances inside. From what I saw, there was nothing in that house. Nothing. It was a shell. The kitchen may have had old appliances in it or something, but I wasn't really paying attention to that part. My 6th senses kicked in, and my brain said to me, this just isn't right. So I turn around and start walking back to my truck, which is maybe 30 feet away. I take my hood off my head and take my hat off so I can have a full peripheral view around me. I immediately start looking to see where the closest neighbor's house is. I see a building up the hill just a tiny bit, but it honestly looked like it was on this guy's property. I'm sure this was just my head playing major tricks with me, but as I'm walking back to my truck, I just feel a presence. I feel like it's hanging onto my back, getting heavier and heavier with every single step closer to the van I took. I jumped in my van, I locked the doors, and I checked the back to make sure nobody was in there. Fuck! The driveway. I back out of this entire driveway while checking my surroundings everywhere. I make it back onto the road. As I'm driving down the road, maybe 40 feet away from this dude's entrance to the driveway, there's a trash bag in the middle of the street. It's opened just a little bit. I slow down, and it looks like there's a woman's sweater or something in there. Was that a kill room? Was someone or multiple people held hostage on that property? Something was up. I immediately contacted my buddy and told him about it. He suggested I go back and snap a few pictures, and I agreed. About 5 minutes go by and I make it back to the address, and the trash bag is completely gone. I looked everywhere on the street and the side of the street. Completely gone. I always thought about how I never know what I'm delivering or who I am delivering to. When I first landed this job, I remember thinking how crazy it would be if someone was holding people hostage in their house and torturing them. Such a person would probably order their food and house supplies online because they are afraid of leaving the house with the kidnapped people alone. That's all I could think about when dropping off this package. I left that job not even a week later for different reasons. But I did tell my boss, and he assured me that he would contact the local police department and take that house off of Unnormal Routes schedule. I never heard anything back about it. I'm aware that if the police went out there and found something or people there, I would immediately be called in to tell them what I saw. So I'm going to assume that they went back to check it out and found nothing. But in the same sense, it makes me wonder about the trash bag immediately disappearing after I left, after I had noticed it. Did they realize that they messed up and I was going to say something, so they prepared for that? I don't know. I also have no clue what the address was or how to get there by memory to check it out myself. But I think about that very often. And every single time I do, I get chills down my spine at the thought of the unknown. This happened about 2 years ago. So there is a really nice little strip of woods right outside my house with 2 little ponds. They're about 10 by 10 feet. It was a really nice little fishing spot for kids. So it was an average day. I think it was good weather, but I remember my friend saying it was a bit too cold for him and he didn't want to go out fishing with me. I told him, okay, I'll explore the fort, which is really just a bit of the woods where we made a rope swing and a bridge so that we could enjoy it by ourselves as teenagers. On this day, for some reason, I felt curious and I decided to go deeper into the woods. Now, mind you, you could see through the woods and see houses on both sides because this was in a very populated area. I was walking through the woods being all curious and looking at footprints on the ground. That's what I found. I found footprints near a tree called Death Tree because someone had left a note engraved into the tree saying how they would kill themselves. I noticed footprints on the bottom of the swampy tree base, and being an idiot, I followed them. I wanted to see what person would invade my fort. I was walking completely covered by trees, and I noticed something man-made about 20 yards in front of me. I remember not having my glasses, so I walked closer. The smell made me gag. It smelled so bad I thought someone had died. I did not want to get any closer, but I knew in my mind I would regret not knowing what happened. As I walked around the massive tree, I saw piles of dead corpses of deer, rabbits, and geese. They were just placed there by the dozen. All of the deer had had their heads removed, and they were filled with bugs. The rabbits were all stabbed in the head with sticks, and they just had sticks coming out of them like a fucking marshmallow-filled stick. I don't really remember the geese because I couldn't handle what I was looking at. It was absolutely disgusting. I immediately ran out of the woods and went home to throw up. The image that it left in my mind is absolutely traumatizing. I have since not gone back to any woods of any kind. I have heard nothing about this going around. To this day, I realize that there has been a rapid increase in animals over the last 2 years. I'm hoping that they left. This odd memory of mine I've been thinking about a lot lately because of the recent news of the Delphi murders. The man I'm talking about in this story looked similar to the first sketch, but this happened 20 years ago and that sketch is irrelevant. When I was 12, I lived in Flagstaff, Arizona. If you're not familiar with this part of AZ, it's not what you think of when you think of Arizona. It's a ponderosa pine forest with mountains, and it snows in the winter. Across the street from my home was an entrance to some woods with paths. As my parents worked and I was the first one home after school, it was my responsibility to walk the dog. Usually I would just take him inside the entrance to the woods. I was too scared to go into the actual woods, even with my dog, because he was stronger than me and didn't listen to me when we were outside. There were other reasons I didn't like the woods. Wolves, packs of wild dogs, sometimes cattle, yes really. And of course, because I was a kid, I thought it was haunted. But this day, I guess I felt adventurous, and I took him on a walk into the woods. We went pretty deep that day, and didn't see another soul because it was about 3 PM and people were at work. Neighbourhood kids didn't really hang out back there either. Now, my dog was excited by anything that moved, and always wanted to greet another person, cat or dog. But this day, on the way back, I remember him being steadfast, still pulling me along on the way back home, ignoring squirrels and trees blowing in the wind. Then out of nowhere, a man appeared on the trail in front of me. Now, when I say out of nowhere, that's exactly what I mean. The woods are not dense, and usually you can see people from far enough away that they don't surprise you. The man was dressed head to toe in brown and tan colours. He gave a weak "Hey" and did not make eye contact. The way he dressed struck me because everything but the treetops was brown, as there was a drought at the time. As he passed, I took a few more steps and I turned around because he made me uneasy and he's now behind me. But he was gone. I could see probably 50 feet of trail behind me, and there's no reason I shouldn't be able to see him still. My kid brain started going, maybe he's a ghost. No, he must be hiding. There's no way I wouldn't be able to see him immediately after we passed each other. Maybe he was hiding in front of me before he came out of nowhere. Maybe that's why he's wearing all brown, to blend in. The dog didn't want to greet him like everyone else in the world. It didn't take long for my dog and I to take off running. We ran all the way home. Thank God I had my goofy dog, because he was pretty aloof but also protective. For all I know, maybe disappearing woodsman watched me take my dog out there every day and saw me wander in that day. I let my dog crap in the yard for a few months afterwards so I wouldn't have to go back to the woods. At a similar time, I heard my dog bark for the only time in his life. It was when just me and my sisters were home at night with lights on and the blinds wide open facing the woods. My dog just started going crazy, barking at the windows and door. We closed the blinds and eventually he stopped and laid at the front door until my parents came home. He never normally laid at the front door. I don't remember if this happened before or after I saw the man in the woods, but I do wonder if it was related.